In the shadows of Chongqing's glittering skyscrapers, groups of hungry youths quietly rummage through supermarket dumpsters at night. They are not rebels, just starving. An undercover journalist from Hong Kong described the scene starkly. The poverty here is worse than anything I saw in rural Cambodia. It's not only unemployed workers. The invisible poor are now visible across major cities like Wuhan, where each dawn begins with orders to clear the homeless from train stations. A station worker revealed, "We're not allowed to help, just to push them out of sight." Social media is flooded with heartbreaking posts. "We'll do any work for food." A 54-year-old man from Shandong wrote, "No meat in 20 days. I'll clean your toilet for 10 yuan. In cities like Zhengzhou and Xi'an, entire families, grandparents, parents, and children are crammed into cramped apartments without clean water or electricity. Online forums are filled with survival tips: how to cook weeds, how to stretch one bowl of rice for 3 meals. The job market is collapsing with data from recruitment platforms like Boss Zhipin, showing an 80% drop in job listings for sectors like construction and manufacturing. Many recent graduates accept degrading government internships paying just 800 yuan a month if they're paid at all. The gig economy is also crumbling. Delivery workers now sleep in storage boxes to avoid rent. A heartbreaking video from Hangzhou captured a delivery rider sobbing after being fined for eating instant noodles on a curb. Municipal budgets are drying up, shelters are overcrowded, and officials are instructed not to solve the problem, but to hide it. A whistleblower from Nanjing's Civil Affairs Bureau admitted, "We were told to clear the streets, not to help people. Make them invisible. That's the directive." A wave of natural disasters. Tornado wreaks havoc in Zhaoqing. Amid the struggle with poverty and unemployment, natural disasters have dealt further blows. On the afternoon of August 7th, a sudden tornado tore through Jinsheng Industrial Zone in Jinli Town, Zhaoqing, City Guangdong Province, causing significant damage. The ferocious winds ripped off metal roofing sheets, sending them spiraling into the sky alongside countless debris. Several structures from factories to shops were severely damaged, with roofs torn apart and roller shutters completely destroyed. A witness at the scene recounted, "The wind was so powerful that a large advertising sign was ripped away right before my eyes, crashing onto a car. It was terrifying. I've never seen anything like it." Other residents reported iron gates, awnings, and trees being uprooted, creating chaos across the area. The deputy mayor of Jinli Town stated that in addition to factory roofs, several utility poles and traffic signs were also damaged. Businesses have been ordered to inspect their facilities to ensure safety and prevent further collapses or accidents. The Gaoyao District Meteorological Bureau, in collaboration with the Foshan Tornado Research Center, confirmed the tornado occurred around 3:12 p.m. on August 7th and was classified as a weak tornado lasting 2 to 3 minutes. However, authorities warn that such extreme weather events could recur, urging residents to remain vigilant. Damage assessments are ongoing, with a detailed report expected in the coming days. Economic crisis and social impacts. The combination of economic collapse and natural disasters like the Zhaoqing tornado exacerbates the hardships faced by the Chinese people. The crumbling job market has pushed millions into poverty, from recent graduates to middle-aged workers. In Guangdong, even basic service jobs are scarce. One worker shared, "I left my hometown in Jiangxi for Guangdong to find work, but after over a month, I don't have a single penny. I can't even afford a bus ticket." Many are forced to return to their hometowns, with dozens of buses packed with people leaving Guangdong daily. On social media, stories of desperation are increasingly common. A graduate from a prestigious university shared, "I earned a master's degree, but after 8 months of job hunting, I haven't received a single offer. Now I deliver food to survive." Another described homeless people sleeping under bridges, from elderly women to young girls, while authorities focus on evicting rather than aiding them. China's economy is in free fall, with the Consumer Price Index (CPI) and Producer Price Index (PPI) declining, continuously signaling persistent deflation. Exports to the U.S. dropped 34.5% in May, the steepest fall since the pandemic, while imports fell 3.4%, indicating factories are shutting down due to a lack of raw materials. In this context, the Zhaoqing tornado is not just a natural disaster, but a symbol of a nation grappling with deep cracks from a collapsing economy to vulnerable infrastructure. While authorities claim a 5.3% economic growth in the first half of the year, the Chinese people are living a harsh reality where hope is dwindling and survival has become the sole objective. Beijing's hidden flood tragedy, destruction, concealment, and a community in ruin. According to multiple residents, torrential rain struck on July 26th, continuing for several hours into the night. Around midnight, a normally shallow stream, no more than ankle deep, suddenly swelled with astonishing force. Within moments, the water depth rose to approximately 2.3 meters, and the width expanded to more than 150 meters. The torrent surged through the town, reaching the height of a 3-story building. Entire houses were swallowed. Vehicles, roads, bridges, and centuries-old trees were swept away in a matter of minutes. Liulimiao, located where the Liuli River and Beihai River converge, is known for its campsites and riverside tourism. With more than 300 guest houses, the area had been bustling with visitors seeking a summer escape. But that night, the town turned into a disaster zone. Many guest houses suffered catastrophic damage. In some cases, the floodwaters tore through entire buildings, leaving nothing but rubble and twisted metal. A villager recounted that Liulimiao has few formal parking areas, forcing most vehicles to be left along the outer ring roads near the riverbanks. When the waters surged, more than 1,000 vehicles were either washed away or buried in mud. In nearby Anjobakun, dozens of cars were left submerged under thick layers of silt. The scale of the loss was overwhelming. Upstream witnesses revealed an even more alarming detail. Several reservoirs had discharged water simultaneously, significantly increasing the flood's destructive power. One villager stated that many residents of Liulimiao were buried by mudslides and estimated that at least 100 people had died, far more than what official channels have acknowledged. Authorities have sealed off information prohibiting locals from sharing casualty figures. Rescue teams are still searching for missing persons, but the chances of survival grow slimmer with each passing day. Many people have not been found. One resident lamented, and the smell of decay is already heavy in the air. Scenes from the disaster zone are harrowing. Mangled vehicles are strewn across the landscape, many piled atop each other like discarded toys. Some lie half buried in mud, while others rest precariously on collapsed riverbanks. Rescue workers continue to search along the waterways, checking inside vehicles for trapped occupants. One Beijing resident posting under the name Jin Liu Bao said she had spoken to a campsite owner who lost both his mother and child when their car was swept away. Another witness, using the screen name Boluo City, wrote simply, "Many people were taken by the water. The tragedy was not confined to Liulimiao." In Taishitun, another settlement within the disaster zone, residents reported seeing cars swept down flooded streets with people still inside. A local rescuer explained that on the morning after the floods, search teams focused their efforts along the river following the trail of destruction. "The stench is everywhere," he said, describing the urgent need for large-scale disinfection to prevent disease outbreaks. It's even stronger inside the villages. Footage from social media shows entire streets in Taishitun under sanitation operations, with workers spraying chemicals to neutralize the smell of decay. Observers say the scale of the operation and the speed at which it was deployed suggest authorities are aware of significant casualties, even if the official death toll remains low. Some online users have remarked that the number of missing people is far higher than what's being reported, while others caution that this is a secret you can't just ask about. Adding to the tension, residents report that conversations about the disaster are being closely monitored. Questions about the real death toll are met with silence or warnings. Yet despite the fear, videos and testimonies continue to emerge, painting a grim picture of what happened that night. The flood was not simply the result of heavy rainfall. Local accounts suggest that upstream reservoir discharges, whether intentional or poorly coordinated, greatly intensified the destruction. In mountainous regions like Huairu, such releases can rapidly transform a rising river into a lethal wall of water. With little warning, entire neighborhoods can be wiped out. Liulimiao's geography made it particularly vulnerable. Positioned at the meeting point of two rivers with its tourism infrastructure built close to the banks, the town had long been at risk during extreme weather. Yet many locals say they were never adequately warned about the danger, nor were there clear evacuation plans. When the water came, it was too late for many to escape. Among the most striking images from the aftermath are those of the cars, thousands of them scattered across mud plains, crumpled against bridge supports, or stacked in heaps. Some are almost unrecognizable, caked in silt and debris. Rescue workers check each one hoping to find survivors, but often recovering only grim evidence of lives lost. The personal stories behind these numbers are heartbreaking. One camper who had come with his family for a weekend getaway saw the floodwaters rising outside his window in the middle of the night. By the time he reached the door, the current was too strong. His wife and child were swept away before his eyes. In another case, a woman trapped in her third-floor apartment watched helplessly as vehicles floated past, some with people still inside pounding on the windows for help. The disaster also exposed long-standing weaknesses in Beijing's emergency preparedness. Residents say communication broke down almost immediately. Power outages washed out roads and collapsed bridges, isolated entire communities. In the crucial first hours, many survivors relied on their own efforts or on local volunteers rather than official rescue teams. By the third day, the focus shifted from rescue to recovery. The smell of decay grew stronger, and the need for large-scale disinfection became urgent. Health officials deployed teams to spray affected areas, particularly in low-lying neighborhoods where mud and debris had collected. But even as cleanup began, many families were still searching for loved ones. Authorities have maintained a tight grip on information, releasing only limited updates. Official statements highlight the scale of property damage, but rarely address the human toll in detail. This has fueled frustration among residents and observers alike. "We deserve to know the truth," one local said. "We are the ones who lost our homes, our cars, and our family members." Despite the restrictions, the story of Liulimiao's flood is spreading through social media, whispered conversations, and the testimonies of those who refuse to stay silent. It is a story not just of nature's power, but of systemic failures, inadequate infrastructure, questionable water management decisions, and a lack of transparency in the face of tragedy. In the end, the July 26th flood will be remembered not only for its physical destruction, but for the questions it left unanswered. How many lives were truly lost? Could the disaster have been prevented, or at least mitigated with better planning and communication? And why, in an age of instant information, must citizens still rely on unofficial channels to learn the fate of their own neighbors? For the survivors of Liulimiao and the surrounding villages, these questions are not abstract. They are as real as the empty homes, the missing cars, and the unclaimed bodies still lying somewhere beneath the mud. Tornado hits Zhaoqing, Guangdong, causing damage to buildings. On the afternoon of August 7th, a tornado struck Jinsheng Industrial Zone, Jinli Town, Gaoyao Zhaoqing City, Guangdong Province, causing significant damage. The powerful winds ripped off metal roofing sheets, sending them swirling into the sky alongside various debris. Several structures, including factories and shops, sustained severe damage with roofs torn apart and roller shutters destroyed. A witness recounted, "The wind was so strong that I saw a large advertising sign get torn away right in front of me, crashing onto a car. It was terrifying. I've never seen anything like it." Other residents reported that items such as iron gates, awnings, and even trees were uprooted, creating chaos in the area. Local authorities promptly deployed teams to clear debris and assess the damage. The deputy mayor of Jinli Town stated that in addition to factory roofs being blown off, some utility poles and traffic signs were also damaged. Businesses in the area have been instructed to inspect their facilities to ensure safety and prevent further accidents or collapses. According to the Gaoyao District Meteorological Bureau, which collaborated with the Foshan Tornado Research Center, the tornado occurred around 3 to 12 p.m. on August 7th and was classified as a weak tornado. Despite its brief duration of 2 to 3 minutes, officials warn that extreme weather events like this could recur, urging residents to stay vigilant. Damage assessments are ongoing with a detailed report expected in the coming days. There is also the moral cost, harder to measure, but far more corrosive in the long run. Every time a family in Zhengzhou must choose between buying rice and paying electricity, every time a worker in Guangdong sleeps in a storage box to avoid rent, every time a grieving parent in Liulimiao is told to keep silent about their missing child, the bond between the governed and the governing frays a little more. The state's legitimacy, once derived from delivering prosperity and security, now rests on the brittle foundation of narrative control. In the years to come, China will face more storms, more economic shocks, and more public health emergencies. The real test will not be whether the country can build higher flood walls or stronger factory roofs, but whether it can build a system that values truth over propaganda, people over optics, and accountability over control. Without that shift, the disasters will keep coming, and each one will strike a nation less able and less willing to recover, less willing to recover, less willing to recover. China's crisis, youth unemployment, economic collapse, and social unrest in summer 2025. In the summer of 2025, China, once an economic powerhouse, finds itself at an unprecedented crossroads. The nation revered globally for its meteoric rise is now facing a severe crisis that threatens its very foundation. While towering skyscrapers, neon lights, and bustling shopping centers still dominate the major cities, they mask the deepening fractures beneath the surface. The heat of the summer is not the only thing suffocating China. The youth, once the driving force behind its rapid ascent, are now at the mercy of an unforgiving economy. With soaring unemployment and crippling debt, millions of young Chinese find themselves struggling to survive in a nation that has failed to deliver on its promises of prosperity. The silent struggle. Unemployment, debt, and a distant future. As of mid-2025, the official youth unemployment rate in China is reported at 20%. However, experts argue that the true figure is far worse, possibly as high as 35% to 46%. These figures reflect not just the failure of the education system to prepare young people for stable careers, but the broader economic malaise that has left millions of graduates unemployed, struggling to make ends meet. Many have turned to gig jobs or temporary work jobs that provide little security and offer no prospects for advancement. Some young people, despite holding university degrees, are now delivering takeout, working as online content creators, or trying to survive through odd jobs that barely cover their living expenses. The dream of upward mobility that many young Chinese once held the hope that hard work and education would lead to a stable, prosperous life has now faded into a grim reality. For an increasing number, the basic goal of simply paying bills has become a daily battle. Once a society where education was a pathway to success, China now sees a generation of disillusioned youth whose hopes for a brighter future have been replaced by an overwhelming sense of hopelessness. Debt crisis. The weight of a collapsing economy. China's economic crisis is not just about unemployment. It is also driven by a massive debt burden that affects nearly 900 million Chinese citizens. By mid-2025, about 400 million people are struggling with severe repayment problems, trapped by mortgages, car loans, and credit card debts. The scale of this personal debt crisis has far-reaching implications for both individuals and entire industries. Many Chinese citizens are facing mounting debts due to the burst property bubble, as well as rising interest rates. With real estate prices plummeting, millions of homeowners are stuck paying mortgages on properties that are worth much less than what they owe. In China, personal bankruptcy laws are minimal, offering little relief to those drowning in debt. A missed payment does not just hurt one's finances, it becomes a permanent mark on one's credit history, further restricting opportunities for employment, housing, and even basic financial services. With fewer opportunities available, many individuals have resorted to taking on new loans just to cover their old debts, creating a dangerous cycle of borrowing to pay off borrowing. This vicious cycle is compounded by a broader economic slowdown, with many businesses, especially in manufacturing and real estate, folding or severely cutting back. The collapse of the real estate sector and its ripple effects. The real estate sector, long the backbone of China's economic growth, has collapsed, sending shockwaves through the economy. For years, property development fueled the growth of industries like construction materials, home appliances, and even luxury goods. However, by 2025, the real estate bubble burst, leading to a widespread collapse that has devastated homeowners and businesses alike. Property prices have plummeted, leaving millions of homeowners with unsellable properties and banks holding massive amounts of devalued assets. The crisis has also affected the broader economy, with industries ranging from furniture manufacturing to material suppliers seeing dramatic downturns. Real estate giants like Evergrande Country Garden and Kaisa have all defaulted on their debts, leaving a trail of bankruptcies and rising unemployment. With the government failing to provide effective intervention, businesses that were once thriving have now shuttered, unable to survive the economic downturn. The ripple effects of the real estate collapse have left millions of workers unemployed and trapped in a financial limbo, unable to escape the economic chaos. The psychological and social costs of economic collapse. While the economic collapse is a visible catastrophe, the psychological toll it has taken on China's youth is equally profound. In a society that has long measured success by wealth and career achievements, the current economic downturn has left many feeling hopeless. Youth unemployment continues to soar, and the dream of upward mobility has been replaced by the harsh reality of financial instability. In major cities like Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen, it is increasingly common for young adults in their 30s to still live with their parents, not out of choice, but because they simply cannot afford the astronomical cost of rent. This economic stagnation is not just affecting the pocketbooks of millions. It is eroding mental health across the country. Reports indicate a surge in anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts, particularly among the younger generation who feel that they have no future. Many are turning to online forums where feelings of hopelessness and disillusionment are increasingly common. Some young people have even adopted a mindset of lying flat, a form of quiet rebellion against a system that no longer seems worth participating in. This movement, born out of frustration and fatigue, is spreading across the nation as the youth struggle to find meaning in a society that once promised them success, but now offers only despair. Government response. Failure to adapt and escalating tensions. Despite the severe economic crisis, the government's response has been insufficient, with policies that have failed to address the root causes of the problem. Stimulus measures and subsidies aimed at boosting consumer spending have shown limited success as the economic downturn continues. The government's attempts to push businesses to become self-reliant have left many small and medium-sized enterprises struggling to survive, while large corporations continue to fail under the weight of mounting debts. In rural areas, frustrations with the government have led to protests and clashes. For example, in Guangxi, villagers resisted government plans to build wind turbines on their land, leading to violent confrontations with riot police. Despite the growing unrest, the government has failed to respond to the grievances of the citizens, further exacerbating tensions. Many villagers are now looking to the central government in Beijing for redress, but their efforts have been met with indifference and further suppression. This growing dissatisfaction with the government's handling of the crisis is a clear sign of the deepening social unrest in China. With youth unemployment soaring, economic instability spreading, and growing protests across the country, the government's inability to provide meaningful solutions is putting the nation's social fabric at risk. Without effective intervention, the situation will only worsen, and the social unrest could spiral into something far more dangerous. The future of China. A nation on the brink. As China continues to grapple with its economic and social crises, the future remains uncertain. The youth unemployment crisis is far from over, and with the collapse of key sectors like real estate, the economic recovery seems impossible in the short term. The rising debt crisis, compounded by falling consumer demand, is deepening the malaise. For many, the dream of a better future has been replaced by the harsh reality of debt, unemployment, and a loss of hope. The collapse of the property market has had far-reaching effects, not just on homeowners, but on entire industries that were once dependent on real estate. As these industries crumble, unemployment continues to rise and businesses shut down. It seems inevitable that China's economic decline will continue in the coming years. Meanwhile, the government's failure to address the underlying issues is pushing the country closer to a breaking point. The future of China is uncertain, and unless the government takes decisive action to address the structural issues facing the economy, the situation will continue to deteriorate. With rising unemployment, escalating debt, and social unrest, the path ahead looks bleak. China's once promising future now appears clouded by the very forces that once propelled it to greatness. The country is at a crossroads, and how it responds to this crisis will determine its future trajectory. The southern metropolis of Shenzhen, often dubbed China's Silicon Valley, exemplifies this paradox. Once a beacon of innovation and opportunity drawing migrants from across the country with promises of high-tech jobs and upward mobility, the city now faces a stark reality. In the dead of night, public facilities that were built for convenience have transformed into impromptu refuges. Imagine brightly lit restrooms at odd hours, not empty as one might expect, but crowded with individuals seeking shelter from the elements. These aren't just transients. Many are recent arrivals or long-time workers displaced by economic shifts, clutching minimal possessions like thin mats and tattered garments to ward off the chill. The scene evokes a deep sense of irony in a city synonymous with wealth and progress. Basic survival has become a nightly ordeal for too many. This phenomenon isn't isolated. Sources indicate a surge in homelessness across major Chinese cities, with Shenzhen emerging as a hotspot. Estimates suggest the national homeless population has ballooned, driven by factors like mass layoffs and a faltering real estate market. In Shenzhen alone, the economic downturn has left armies of the displaced on the streets, a direct fallout from corporate restructurings and reduced foreign investment. Migrant workers who form the backbone of the city's labor force arrive with high hopes only to find doors closed. They huddle in public spaces, saving every yuan on lodging to send remittances home or simply to eat. The emotional toll is palpable. Behind each face is a story of sacrifice, of leaving rural hometowns for urban dreams that have soured. As one observer notes, this hidden crisis is as much economic as it is social, eroding productivity and straining community resources. Moving northward to Beijing, the capital's underbelly reveals similar strains. On the outskirts, near bridges and peripheral towns, dawn breaks over gatherings of day laborers, eager for any gig. These early morning assemblies, starting as early as 4 a.m., see crowds converging in hopes of being selected for factory shifts or construction work. Agencies swoop in by 6 a.m., scanning IDs and herding the chosen onto buses bound for distant sites. But competition has intensified dramatically since late 2024, with wages plummeting and age becoming a barrier. Those over 50, despite their experience, are frequently sidelined for grueling tasks left to linger in urban villages where a basic bed costs a pittance but offers little dignity. Here, the elderly bear a disproportionate burden. Veterans of these labor markets, many in their 50s and 60s, endure damp quarters and relentless rejection. Their persistence highlights a broader societal divide. While some seniors enjoy pensions and leisurely retirements, others toil in undignified roles to make ends meet. Viral images capture this disparity: a street performer in a whimsical costume, unmasking to reveal an exhausted grandmother, her gray hair a testament to years of hardship. In a world of extremes where high-rises tower over ditches of despair, these individuals embody the raw inequality fueling China's social tensions. Unemployment, particularly among the middle-aged, has become a pervasive shadow. Official figures peg urban joblessness at around 5% in mid-2025, but anecdotal evidence and adjusted surveys suggest the reality is far grimmer, especially for those in their 30s and 40s. In bustling cafes like those operated by international chains, a peculiar trend has taken hold, patrons lingering for hours without purchasing much, using free Wi-Fi and air conditioning as lifelines. These aren't leisurely visitors. They're the unemployed masquerading as office workers to shield their families from worry. Laptops open, resumes polished endlessly. They sip on self-brought water to stretch their presence. What was once a symbol of aspirational consumerism has morphed into a sanctuary for the jobless, underscoring the erosion of middle-class stability. Personal tales of downfall add human texture to these statistics. Consider a former tech executive in his 30s, laid off amid company downsizing. With parents to support children to raise and loans looming, he frequents coffee shops to maintain the facade of employment. His days blend anxiety and determination, a silent battle against despair. Similarly, a septuagenarian turns to online sales, dancing awkwardly with produce in live streams to attract buyers only to face cruel mockery. Tears flow as ridicule mounts, yet he persists, driven by necessity. Another story involves a man in his 40s, once prosperous, now donning high heels in videos to hawk women's shoes after business failures. These vignettes reveal a common thread: sudden reversals from stability to struggle, often triggered by market volatility or policy shifts. Even high flyers aren't immune. A finance graduate, once a bank executive and entrepreneur, sees his empire crumble under debt. Job hunts yield nothing. He pivots to ride-hailing trading suits for a driver's seat. Sneers about lost face abound, but family obligations trump pride. As he puts it, middle age demands pragmatism. There's no room for sentiment when dependents rely on you. This shift from elite to everyday laborer mirrors broader economic realignments where industries like finance and real estate falter, leaving skilled workers adrift. Youth, too, navigate treacherous waters. Street vending has surged with college graduates and office workers moonlighting at stalls for extra income. Instability reigns, earnings fluctuate, and interventions like costume confiscations disrupt livelihoods. A frog mascot, beloved yet berated, symbolizes the indignities faced. Young vendors shed educational prestige for survival, prioritizing earnings over ego. As they mature, they grasp that protection of loved ones eclipses societal judgment. Gossip fades when bills are paid and families fed. At the heart of this endurance lies family. Dusty construction workers return home to adoring children, their fatigue melting into joy. A father treated to a simple meal by his daughter records the moment with childlike glee. A son, after years of saving, flies his mountain-bound parent for the first time, evoking tears of wonder. These acts underscore why people persevere to afford small luxuries, witness dreams realized, and foster warmth amid adversity. Money, as a proverb suggests, isn't everything, but it gentles the years, enabling lives of meaning. Yet the backdrop is grim. In Guangzhou, A commercial powerhouse shopping districts that once buzzed with activity now echo with emptiness. Pedestrian streets famed globally see shuttered storefronts where signs have vanished, not temporarily, but permanently. Rents, once sky-high at 100,000 yuan monthly, fail to lure tenants. Malls stand half-vacant floors barren of shoppers. Even prime locations near subways host closed securities firms and shrunken luxury outlets. Survivors. Medical aesthetics and tea shops cling on, but pawn shops proliferate, signaling widespread financial strain. This desolation extends to office spaces and residential areas. Creative parks languish, unoccupied companies fleeing to cheaper alternatives or folding altogether. The catering sector reels, dumpling shops and shared kitchens, once thriving with hundreds of orders, sit idle for months. Bankruptcy rates for physical stores hover at alarming levels, with streets losing 80% of businesses annually. Locals lament the loss of vibrancy. Vegetable markets stall, eateries empty at peak hours. Where did the crowds go? Some speculate collective frugality. Others point to migration back to hometowns amid job scarcity. Broader indicators paint a regressive picture. Guangzhou's economy slowing markedly risks demotion from first-tier status. Residents note quieter streets, unrented homes, and an exodus of workers. Comparisons to 2005 feel apt. Growth has stalled, reverting to earlier levels despite decades of advancement. Nationally, youth unemployment exceeds official tallies, with millions of graduates idling in cafes or worse. Factories shutter, clothing sectors vanish, elevators in office towers run empty during rush hours. Job hunting in these cities borders on futile. New arrivals endure long journeys only to face low wages and barriers. Salaries barely cover rents or deliveries, trapping workers in cycles of debt to bosses, landlords, or apps. Anxiety mounts as savings dwindle, hope fades. Some desert for rural pursuits, seeking purpose elsewhere. Social credit systems exacerbate woes, blacklisting individuals and freezing assets, pushing them toward cash-only gigs or homelessness. Protests simmer, unpaid wages spark unrest, and a shrinking population, fewer youth replacing retirees, compounds demographic pressures. Despite this, resilience shines. Storms pass, revealing moonlight. China's people, forged in adversity, adapt. Vendors innovate, families, bond, communities endure. The road ahead demands policy shifts, bolstering social nets, stimulating domestic demand, addressing inequality. Until then, individual grit bridges the gap. The year 2025 marks a dark chapter in the nation's history, where natural disasters, epidemics, and human failures intertwine to create a full-blown nightmare. From mysterious phenomena lighting up Beijing's skies to devastating floods ravaging southern provinces, from a spreading epidemic in Guangdong to the collapse of massive infrastructure projects, China is sinking into a crisis that spans economic, social, and political realms. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, tries to conceal the truth behind a thick veil of information control, but viral videos on social media and first-hand accounts from citizens are exposing dark secrets. Today, we dive deep into the most shocking and urgent events to uncover what the CCP is hiding beneath its facade of stability. The catastrophic failure of the Sponge City project. Billions sunk in floodwaters. The Sponge City initiative, once hailed as China's answer to climate change, has been exposed as a colossal $22 billion failure. Launched in 2013 under Xi Jinping's backing, the project aimed to transform urban areas into sponges that absorb rainwater through green roofs, wetlands, and permeable pavements. With a staggering $140 billion invested in flood-resistant infrastructure, the goal was for 80% of urban areas to reuse 70% of rainwater by 2030. Shenzhen received $5 to $7 billion, Guiyang $1 billion, and Henan and Hubei nearly $8 billion, massive sums. Yet, 2025 saw record-breaking floods devastate Shenzhen, Hubei, Hunan, Jiangsu, and Guizhou. Streets turned into rivers, residents waded through chest-high water, and entire livelihoods were lost. A car dealership owner in Guiyang choked back tears. Everything worth $280,000 was destroyed in an instant. Heart-wrenching images spread online. An elderly woman shivering on a rooftop, a boy crying for his missing parents. Expert Wang Weiluo criticized the project. It prioritized GDP over safety. Western models don't suit China's climate, handling only 200 millimeters of rain while storms bring double that. The CCP deflects blame onto nature. But corruption and poor planning are the real culprits. Central funding covered only 20%, leaving local governments to prioritize aesthetics over function. The result? Economic ruin, social unrest, and eroded trust in the government. A stark reflection of a deeper political crisis. Mysterious phenomena in Beijing's skies, a sign from the heavens. On the night of August 6, 2025, Beijing's sky became a stage for a supernatural spectacle that left millions in awe and fear. At the foot of Lianhua Mountain in Yanqing County, residents witnessed continuous flashes of lightning from 8:30 p.m., lasting over an hour without a single clap of thunder. The sky was clear, the moon shining brightly, yet a massive mushroom-shaped cloud on the southern horizon glowed with eerie light. "My God, this is too bizarre," exclaimed a resident in a viral TikTok video that racked up millions of views. Viewers described the scene as resembling a giant reclining Buddha, a radiant lotus platform, an ancient castle, or a pagoda with hundreds of tiny statues inside. "Look, it's like a Buddha's head with a beard, facing west," one resident said, zooming in on the footage, convinced it was a divine sign. Slow-motion videos even captured what appeared to be a dragon soaring through the clouds or a sword-wielding warrior riding the lightning. Authorities rushed to explain it as cloud lightning, but netizens scoffed. "If the experts say that, I'm more convinced it's an immortal crossing the heavens." Hongxing News confirmed the authenticity of a sword-riding video, but their cloud movement explanation only fueled skepticism. Reports of threatening calls to delete videos suggest the CCP is hiding something bigger, perhaps a military experiment or an environmental anomaly. This event not only shocked the public, but also reignited mystical beliefs, stirring a society caught between science and superstition. Nationwide floods, the dark truth behind the Three Gorges Dam. The 2025 floods have been a nightmare of biblical proportions, submerging China from Beijing to Sichuan and Fujian. Torrential rains pushed 329 rivers past safety levels, with Taishan town in Beijing flooded up to the third floor and Wudian village in Fujian swept away by flash floods. "The water came in just 15 minutes, taking everything," recounted Ms. Fan. "Cars floated like boats, bridges collapsed, and farmland was buried under mud. In Hubei, a man pleaded, 'The water's 4 meters deep. Save the child.' The CCP discharged water from dozens of dams to protect structures, but without warning, causing deaths and devastation. At the heart of it all is the Three Gorges Dam. Water levels hit 171 meters, nearing the 175-meter limit, with a discharge of 44,000 cubic meters per second on July 16th, enough to fill 300 West Lakes in a day. Wang Weiluo revealed, They kept water high for power generation, ignoring safety, and discharged secretly at night. The result? Millions downstream were inundated, and local economies collapsed. Farmers lost crops, factories sank in mud. The CCP hides the true death toll with state media boasting safe evacuations, but residents accuse 3 days without water, power, or rescue. Deputy Premier Zhang Guing prioritized the economy over relief, exposing a policy of sacrificing citizens. The floods are not just a natural disaster, but a man-made catastrophe, shaking the CCP's credibility. If the dam fails, hundreds of millions could perish, and the regime could collapse. Chikungunya epidemic spreads, new lockdowns, and social fear. Amid the natural disasters, a chikungunya outbreak has erupted in Guangdong, spreading to 13 cities with 7,716 cases by August 3, 2025. Originating in Foshan, the mosquito-borne virus causes high fever and crippling joint pain with no specific treatment. Over 2,892 new cases in a week, reported Liberty Times. The government reinstated nucleic acid testing, enforced quarantines, and cut power to those who resisted. Hospitals deployed guards, locking in fever patients until they tested negative. It's like COVID lockdowns, netizens lamented. Measures like releasing 5,000 mosquito-eating fish and mass incense burning were mocked. Mosquitoes aren't dead, but we're being wiped out. The US CDC issued a Level 2 alert, and Hong Kong advised avoiding Foshan. The CCP obscures the virus's origin, imported or local, with rumors of cases in Beijing officially denied. A quarantined patient shared, "Joint pain lasts 18 months, ruining quality of life." Combined with Fujian's floods, collapsed homes, broken bridges, starving victims, the epidemic has fueled panic and paralyzed the economy. Online comments rage. The CCP only controls, it doesn't cure. Stability through terror is their goal. Economic crisis, from fake GDP to shattered livelihoods. The crisis is delivering a death blow to China's economy. The failed Sponge City project wasted $140 billion, floods destroyed farmland and factories, Henan lost entire harvests, Hubei drowned in mud. The chikungunya outbreak crippled Guangdong, with international travel warnings gutting tourism. The Three Gorges Dam prioritized power over safety, but its discharges caused billions in damages. Wang Weiluo noted, "It's all about boosting GDP, not investigating causes." The fallout? Millions unemployed, families torn apart, a boy crying for his father, an elderly woman starving on a rooftop. The CCP hides real data, touting rapid recovery, but social media reveals the truth. We're abandoned. The economy is a mirage. This isn't just a financial crisis, but a social one, with growing inequality and rural areas sacrificed for urban centers. Social fractures, from superstition to public discontent. Chinese society is cracking under the crisis's weight. The Beijing sky phenomenon sparked superstition. There are real immortals. Citizens filmed dragons and Buddhas, suspecting secret experiments. Floods and epidemics eroded trust. Officials don't save us, they hide deaths. Netizens quipped, "If experts explain, I believe it's a heavenly crossing." Chikungunya lockdowns echo COVID, fueling resentment. The CCP turns us into slaves. Families are shattered, rescuers sacrificed, a man saving his wife, "Save her first, I can swim." But many died needlessly. The CCP's information control and threats to delete videos backfire as social media spreads the truth, fostering underground dissent. Political instability, the CCP's secrets and crumbling credibility. At its core, this is a political crisis. The CCP hides secrets to cling to power. From the Three Gorges Dam's structural tweaks to the murky origins of the epidemic, from the Sponge City failure to secret dam discharges, all expose abysmal governance. Xi Jinping touts harmony with nature, but the reality is citizen sacrifice. Michael Allen warned, A dam collapse would be a regime-ending blow. No senior leaders appeared for relief efforts, only controlling the narrative. The public doubts, they lie to avoid accountability. The crisis is shaking the CCP's legitimacy, potentially leading to major unrest, a China on the brink of change. Can China weather this storm? China in 2025 is a portrait of chaos, bizarre natural phenomena, devastating floods, rampant epidemics, and infrastructure failures, all under the CCP's cover-up. Millions suffer, the economy crumbles, society frays, and politics wobble. Yet, through videos and testimonies, the truth emerges. The big question, can the regime keep hiding, or will the tide of discontent sweep it away? Share your thoughts, subscribe for updates. Thank you for following.
Zhengzhou Metro and Beijing Guangzhou Tunnel flooded again, a life-or-death moment. Gansu suffers a devastating mudslide, razing villages to the ground. See, it's the Jingguang Road Tunnel again. It's almost suffocating. Hey guys, I climbed out of the window. There's water all around the car. It stinks. Wow. Surely many people still remember the tunnel flooding incident in Zhengzhou, China, in Tuiyuan. A tragedy related to historic floods. Record heavy rains caused severe flooding, especially in urban areas, flooding a tunnel in Zhengzhou so deeply that many vehicles and people were trapped inside, causing thousands of injuries in this event. And now, in August 2025, another similar incident is repeating itself. Zhengzhou Metro and Beijing Guangzhou Tunnel are flooded again. Recently, heavy rain and flooding have hit many parts of China. According to CCTV, the CCP mouthpiece, from August 9th to 10th, heavy rain fell in the western Sichuan Basin and other areas, with some areas experiencing torrential or heavy rain. Parts of Dayong experienced particularly heavy rain, causing waterlogging in many parts of Sichuan and disrupting traffic. Hey guys, we're so lucky we didn't park here last night. We were incredibly lucky. Look guys, the water's so high. Be careful when you go out. Be careful, it's so high. The water's so high. Wow, look, it's scary. Morning lightning and thunder jolted many residents awake. Heavy rain caused waterlogging on some low-lying roads during the morning rush hour, disrupting commutes. The sudden downpour also caused economic losses for businesses. Oh my goodness, everyone, please look at this. I've suffered significant losses. Please help me. Is my factory safe? Oh my goodness. Bodhisattva, please look. Everyone, please help me. Is my factory safe? On August 7th, 2025, Zhengzhou, the capital of Henan province, was devastated by sudden heavy rains, leaving the entire city submerged. Look, the trams are soaked in water. It's raining heavily in the western suburbs of Zhengzhou. Look at the entrance to my dental clinic. Look at Huaihei Road. It's become a river. Cars are driving very slowly, like boats rushing by. Look at the swift current. The buses have stopped, and no one dares to run. The current is so strong it's very similar to the flow rate during the July 20th rain 4 years ago. The man mentioned the horrifying flood that struck Zhengzhou residents 4 years ago. Torrential rain and floodwaters completely submerged the Zhengzhou Jingguang Tunnel, trapping many vehicles and people inside and killing them. Zhengzhou Metro Line 5 was also severely flooded, killing many people in the carriages. Recently, a video surfaced showing the Zhengzhou Jingguang Tunnel apparently flooded again. X-platform user Overseas Breaking News posted, Zhengzhou Jingguang Road Tunnel is flooded. Drivers are horrified. Around 1:00 p.m. on August 7th, heavy rainfall in Zhengzhou caused flooding in the Jingguang Road Tunnel in Erqi district, causing numerous vehicles to break down and stall. Drivers were terrified, fearing a repeat of the July 20th, 2021 tragedy. Some climbed ladders to escape from the tunnel's upper reaches. It's so scary. I'm so scared. Can I get up? Oh, I'm so scared. It feels like being on a boat. I'm so scared. Move forward. Move forward. Please, car, give me some strength. I'm so scared. I finally made it out. I'm so scared. Not only did the flooding in the Jingguang Tunnel terrify drivers, but even the flooding of Zhengzhou subway stations frightened passengers, as the natural and man-made disaster of July 20th, 2021 was still fresh in everyone's memory. One netizen commented, "I thought Zhengzhou would improve its drainage system after the July 20th, 2021 incident, but 4 years later, the government still hasn't done anything." The Zhengzhou government claimed to have invested 10 billion yuan to upgrade the water supply and drainage system, but heavy rains still flooded the city. The netizens sarcastically commented, "You see, Zhengzhou doesn't flood unless it rains normally, but after this downpour, I wonder how many high-quality used cars will be flooded." A Zhengzhou resident filmed the road from a high-rise building and said, "The area below Zhenghonghui in the Zhengzhou high-tech zone has become a river, and many cars have already been flooded here. The entire road is now flooded, and the water is so deep that cars should avoid passing through here if possible. Buses are already flooded deeply, and the entire road is like this." On August 7th, the Zhengzhou Meteorological Observatory issued a red alert for heavy rain. Effective at 1 p.m. that day, the city's flood emergency response was raised to level 3. The Zhengzhou Flood Control and Drought Relief Headquarters issued an emergency notice, demanding the immediate suspension of production, business, classes, and transportation throughout the city. A video of Zhengzhou being hit by heavy rain and severe flooding has gone viral online, leaving some netizens wondering why does Zhengzhou always get flooded at this time? This may be due to the fact that the flooding in Zhengzhou on July 20th, 2021 left a lasting impression and exposed the Zhengzhou municipal government's inadequate disaster relief efforts. Gansu province recently suffered severe torrential rain and flooding, leaving thousands trapped. In Yuzhong County, Lanzhou, the torrential rain affected several townships, severely damaging roads, power, and communications infrastructure. Some villages were practically razed to the ground. Up there, everything is gone, even people and houses. Who are those two people standing over there? I don't know. Look, it's like this. Look, it's still raining and it's getting heavier. Netizen Food Punchwine posted a surveillance video on social media showing the moment the flood suddenly struck Yuzhong County in the early morning of the 8th. Within 2 minutes, the water rushed onto the road, sweeping away all the cars parked near the river. The scene was quite terrifying. One netizen said the video was shot in Nanhe Park in Yuzhong County. Local residents in Yuzhong County exclaimed, "I'm over 60, and this is the first time I've seen such heavy rain." Zhang Kehui, a villager from Bayawan Village, Maliantan Village, Yuzhong County, told the mainland media outlet China Youth Daily that late on the night of August 7th, his village suddenly lost power and heard a loud noise from the mountains. Early in the morning of the 8th, Zhang Kehui climbed over the mountain and was surprised to find that the mudslide had almost completely destroyed Xinyawan Village and Maliantan Village. The land was completely flattened, with floodwaters and boulders strewn everywhere. Survivors from Xinyawan Village also testified that after escaping their homes in the dark, they desperately ran higher up the mountain. Some people hid in trees and cried for help, but were tragically swept away by the flood. Other survivors said that the night before, they had only heard the sounds of trees snapping and rocks colliding with each other. Reports indicate that Xinyawan Village, separated from Zhang Kehui's Maliantan Village and Bayawan Village by a mountain range, was virtually flattened by the mudslide. Many houses along the riverbank disappeared, and hundreds of acres of fertile farmland were destroyed, leaving only floodwaters, rocks, and boulders as large as cars. On August 9th, the Gansu Provincial Flood Control and Drought Relief Headquarters Office stated that as of 6:30 p.m. on the 9th, flash floods in Yuzhong County had resulted in 15 injuries, 15 deaths, and 28 missing persons. The government had urgently relocated 9,828 people, bringing the total number of affected individuals to over 30,000. Given the tendency of CCP officials across the country to only report good news and not bad news, the authenticity of this figure is questionable. However, the disaster was indeed severe. On August 8th, Mr. Chen, a resident of Yuzhong, Lanzhou, told overseas Chinese media, "Officials say over 30 people are missing, but I estimate it's probably more than that. It's unknown how many people were buried by the mudslide. Most of the damage was to roads and houses along the river. The only serious damage was to Maliantan, which is at the foot of the mountain." It seems even those who experienced it don't believe the official CCP narrative. This summer's weather was highly unusual. First, rare high temperatures hit many areas, followed by torrential rain, floods, and typhoons. While people were suffering, local CCP governments secretly released floodwaters while simultaneously working with the party media to stage a show of disaster relief and care for the people. But the people were no longer easy to fool. Even those who were lucky enough to escape the floods were still exhausted from not being able to eat or rest properly. The victims knew best how effective the government's assistance was. The summer of 2025 brought unprecedented flooding across China, affecting multiple provinces from north to south. Torrential rains struck regions including Henan, Sichuan, and Gansu, submerging cities like Zhengzhou and triggering deadly mudslides in Yuzhong County. Urban infrastructure collapsed under the strain, with major tunnels, subway lines, and highways inundated, leaving thousands stranded. Official figures reported thousands dead and missing, though many locals questioned the accuracy of these numbers. Villages in Gansu were flattened, farmland destroyed, and millions were urgently relocated. The floods, compounded by typhoons and heat waves, revealed severe weaknesses in China's disaster prevention systems. Public frustration grew as local governments were accused of inadequate drainage improvements and staging superficial disaster relief efforts.